Fitness Pro mentors, welcome to today's group chat with some of my favorite people. It is my birthday, and I don't want to be doing the exact same thing I've always been doing. I want to take as many people and smash them into one room and see what kind of awesome conversation we can have. So before we get into this, please check out our community for all the other podcasts. But I think what would be really cool is if we talk to one of our European correspondents, Mr. Michael Goulden. Michael, welcome to today's group chat. How you doing today, man?
I am doing really well. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Yeah, happy birthday to you too. I mean, we're all celebrating this thing together.
That's right. That's right. It's a time to have the whiskey.
That's right. Hey, where's yours, man? You told me I was expecting some Maker's Mark. Where's that at?
Well, as soon as we finish, that's where I'm rushing off to find some.
Perfect. I absolutely love it, man. Hey, who do you think we should bring on next? Do you think we should bring on our fella who's hiring somebody new, or our guy who likes to crush 400 pounds on the routine?
Let's go with the guy who's hiring someone new.
And then so we got this handsome fella right here with arms bigger than I could ever possibly imagine. Jacques Henry Newell Taylor. Jacques, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing just great. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Yeah, so happy birthday to you.
Yeah, thank you. And happy birthday to you too, because we're all here together having a great time.
You bet.
Cool, man. So where's yours? Where's your Maker's Mark?
Oh, the mark of my maker is, I can't show that to you. Yeah.
Is it on the lower of your back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and you got some big news too, man, because you were just telling us that you're preparing to hire your first trainer, which is absolutely awesome in your facility. Excited?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm excited about this prospect of sharing information with somebody new, and also seeing what they do with it, seeing what their creativity, their perspective, their life experience brings to this stew.
Yeah, man. Well, you got some incredible stew that I'm excited for you to share and talk about, man. I mean, really. But I think this would be an awesome time to bring in Mr. Infamous Curtis Clay with the hectic marketing videos to do an incredible job of getting them fired up to cut 400 pounds. Curtis, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy birthday, man. I'm excited for this. I felt honored when you asked us to do this, and it's always great to talk and get people together. I haven't seen Michael for a while, or Jacques. Jacques was here pre-COVID, February, 2 years ago, February, but yeah, it's good to see you guys. And I'm just excited to have a conversation and chat. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm super excited about this because like I said this to you guys before we went on air, I love and respect each of you guys for so many different ways. And with this little community, I'm trying to take the entrepreneurial stories that people like you all have and share them, because I think that no matter any level, if you've been doing something like we've been doing for a few years, there are trials, tribulations, successes, and challenges, and new things that you've learned. I think all people can learn from. And I mean, Jacques, you're only like 32, so I know you're relatively new to this whole thing. I think
wow.
that you're, but
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it, right? Oh my gosh. But I think that you guys all have some incredible things to contribute. So I'm excited to have you all here. So first and foremost, before we jump in, thank you so much to all three in advance.
Absolute pleasure, man.
Yes. So I have a question I want to throw out there, and I'm really excited to hear all of your answers. One of the things that I absolutely struggled with at the very beginning of this whole world Jacques, a friend of yours, and my mentor, Peter, I learned some really incredible stuff. I learned how to tell terrible jokes in a way that would not get me fired. Thank you, Peter. But at the same time, he exposed me to so much science and information between the RTS world, at that time, the MAT world, learning more. Jacques, the stuff that you explored, and with Macmillan, it really all kind of just blew my mind. And I found that I struggled with this kind of identity crisis of this person who had all this knowledge and information, and how I could share that and promote it and advertise it and speak to my clients in a way that they truly understood, without overthinking it and over-delivering. Even when I tried to dumb down how I was thinking about things, it was still just a dumbed down version of the science thing, and never really speaking to any kind of audience or client that would let someone come into my door. I kind of intimidated and threw people off. Michael, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, you're someone that's been doing this from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think longer, had your own business, maybe longer than the four of us. I'm not sure, but I know you've had Integra for quite a while. What kind of things have you gone through with that journey, and what's worked best for you?
That one of the things someone asked me actually last Saturday was about how I communicate with a client, and they were saying something positive about how I was doing it, and then I actually reflected that it's not always been like this. And hopefully in 6 months from now, I'll look back to what I did this week and I'll go, oh, that was probably not optimal to be polite. So even just looking back, I can think of errors that I've made, and it's that consciousness of the errors, and that consciousness may come from losing the client, or them being really blunt and direct and going, you're not making any sense, or I just don't care about what you're telling me, or why is this useful for me? Why should I care? Like all of these blunt and direct questions that kind of hurt you at the time, but actually are your life's lessons, they're gifts. Because what they're actually saying is you've got no empathy. You've got no idea where it's like to be receiving all of this information. So I think that first and foremost is actually having that level of consciousness of just witnessing your impact of the words that you use and how you use them, and kind of trying to think. But and we're talking since 1996, I can just keep on bringing up the mistakes and the errors, and just where I really messed up. And I think when you asked that question, it just kind of inspired the thought that I'm absolutely nowhere near perfection right now, and there's always this constant quest to be better. And every time I'm working with someone different, they've got different needs and different expectations and belief systems, and that's kind of where my mind goes.
Michael, do you think you'll ever be in a place where you feel like you've achieved perfection? I love it.
That would be some level of, would it be arrogance, or would it be blindness, or will it be I'm on my deathbed? I was perfect for the tools I had, and I'm perfect for where I am right now.
I'm perfect.
Love
I can
that.
have a nap now.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jacques, same question to you, because honestly, of all the four of us, in my opinion, you have a level of like granular knowledge on the nervous system and the application of it and beyond that I think that anyone here does. You've got so much information, and I could see how it would be an interesting struggle, like taking that information and bringing it all the way down into some sort of language that someone could sort of get. Yeah, this guy does some different stuff with the nervous system without blindsiding them, talking about GABA, like really going gamma aminobutyric acid, just going over the top. I mean, could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, first of all, there's some really kind words, and I feel like I got you all fooled. I really don't know much about nothing, but I have struggled with that, and that continues to be something that I'm working on, is how do you make what you talk about specific to the person who's in front of you? And it's been a challenge on two fronts. One, in terms of working with my clients that I work with one-on-one, then also working with my colleagues that I share information with, continuing education kind of stuff. Because what I realize sometimes is I would be so fired up about something, going off on it, and I'm just going and going. And everybody's just like, dude, that was really cool, but I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I mean, and I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't know how, now let's talk about what this looks like on a bench press now, right? And I think I've had several mentors over the years, and finally the last mentor that I met, maybe it finally got through, and he was like, Jacques, you got to think of it kind of like a commercial, tastes great, less filling kind of thing. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So this whole thing that I think is really cool, when I tell somebody, well, I design exercise from the nervous system's point of view, they're like, yeah, so I don't walk around with my brain, right? That's meaningless to nope. I'm the only person who cares about that. But if I tell you that it's going to feel great, you're going to achieve your goals, and you're just going to take your workouts to your next level, right? Then people are like, okay, I get you. I feel you. I'm with you, right? So to me, it's been this process of trying over and over again to get outside of the way I see the world and trying to understand more about how other people see the world and what their needs are, and how I can tailor my message to meet their need. So I still find that to be a big challenge, but I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. Yeah.
I love that. Hey, Jacques, can you think of a particular example where you've taken all this and you've really tailored it down to the individual that really hit home?
Yeah. It just happened. I mean, there's many, but one that happened the other day was, there's two that are going back and forth in my head. Okay. The one, if you saw this young woman, you wouldn't think that there was really much wrong with her. She walks just fine, but she's in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. And it started because she had an inappropriate soft tissue adjustment that screwed up her something in her pelvis. You know, they say the SI joint, but who knows, right? So anyway, so now when she does something like a squat, right, she'll say that my right side feels really tight and achy. It just feels like it's working really, really hard, right? And if you're looking at her, you're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So what we did was we put these little probes on it. We put a probe, a surface electromyography probe, which gave us some insight about the electrical activity of some muscles. And then we used this other thing called SMO2, which is telling us about the rate of oxygen use in those muscles. And we put them on each leg. And then I was able to show her that as she was doing this motion, that there was no difference in the neuromuscular recruitment or in the metabolic activity of the muscles from the left to the right side. The difference was in the way that her nervous system was interpreting the data, right? The difference was in the way her brain was responding to the message that work's being done over here versus on the other side, right? So once you allow somebody to see that, right, to experience that, then they feel a lot more comfortable going, okay, so you mean I have to just kind of reframe this feedback that I'm getting over here? Yeah, let's reframe that. I'm not asking you to ignore it. Let's see if we can reframe that. And so we're in that process right now, trying to explore it, reframe it, and design different resistance profiles where she feels that more or less. That's just kind of cool. Yeah, so that's one of the things I can think of off the top of my head.
Hey, Jacques, remember that time that I complimented you and then you said, no, I don't deserve that compliment? You just clearly demonstrated that you deserve that compliment. That's awesome, man. Yeah, and I know you and I were chatting, and I know we're going to have you on again, and we're going to talk about the technology that you're using and then how people can kind of come up with their own conclusions without the technology. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, totally, man. I think that's a little bit of a side story, but that's been the breakthrough for me probably in the last 5 years is for a while there, I was down this rabbit hole with this technology going, dude, if you don't have this technology, you don't know what's going on the inside. But now what I'm understanding is that without this technology, there are certain things you might be able to observe from the rate of motion, from the quality of the motion, and what happens as you decrease and increase the load that might give you a way of triangulate what we can see by using some of these sensors and stuff, right? So, yeah. So I think that's kind of fun.
You're also going to have to tell me how many people we need to get to register for a course to get you to fly out to Newmarket, because I think that'll be absolutely incredible for sure. Oh,
that's cool. But we first have to go to Goulden's place in St. Moritz.
Ooh, let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, so Curtis,
wait until it gets to 90 Fahrenheit, and then we can go there. It's got to be hot.
It's fine, but I'm not taking my shirt off near Jacques because I'm just not going to feel good about myself. So, Curtis, same question to you, man, about that whole, that academic and then bringing it down so people can kind of understand. In my opinion, looking at your content, I know that you've explored advertising, marketing, and messaging in a big way. We've had some great conversations about it. What are some paradigm shifts that have really helped you take your advertising and get your messaging to hear people, to have that smarter message, so to speak, translate?
I love it. Yeah, I think, I learned a lot from what both Michael and Jacques said. I mean, I remember when I was in RTS just observing Michael when I was there, and I was just like, dude, this dude functions on a different level, like observant, which is awesome. And then obviously being around Jacques. I remember the first time I met Jacques, I was overloaded at his additional class. I was like, no, actually, it was when he came to Seattle and taught it, and then he was like, dude, take it for what it is, and it was heavy. But I think the cool thing about the process of watching all of you guys post, do certain things, is that I was starting to see how I should communicate better. I realize so much it's hard to communicate via social media, what we do, how we do it. And that's probably the hardest thing, because people, like, say in my area, they may hear like, you're a trainer. So in their mind, if I use Jacques' word of reframing that lady's experience with exercise or a squat, we need to reframe how they think about us. And I think that you can do that with little touches. Like, I've been trying to edit videos, whether it's marketing towards athletes more that are injured or adults that are injured, reframing it to where they can see us in a different light. I don't want people to scroll through, because we mainly use Instagram and we'll repost it to Facebook. I want people to stop. Like, whoa, that cover was kind of interesting. Whoa, what was that? Or something that's ambiguous where they have to pause and really observe it. And I think that's something that I've really tried to adapt and also talk with my wife, right? Because we want to, like what Jacques said, we want to get in it, talk about the details of this, because that excites us. And we think that what we're excited about, they're going to be excited about. And the hard part is like, somebody comes in and they, yeah, like, hey, like, we love exercise. We love resistance profiles, looking at the nervous system, the frame, we love this type of stuff. It excites us, right? But those people, what we're excited about might not meet their goals. And I think that we have to, or what their goals are. And so we have to meet them where they're at. And so with social media and marketing, I've learned that sometimes less is more, like what Jacques said, right? I like that. It was like, what do you say? What do you say, Jacques? Less filling.
More
Tastes
tasty.
great, less filling.
Yeah. It's like, that's exactly it. And it's funny because it's a hard thing, because we want quality clients. We want people that are going to be involved in the process. But the hard part is sometimes people go into Instagram or for marketing, they just want to be entertained, right? They're getting a dopamine hit. Something is happening where that might spark them to pause and look. And then from there, when you can get them inside the doors and actually have a conversation with them, then we can start that reframing process, is what I found. So the whole point of how I've been going about marketing, whether it's simple or less is more, like, for a while, I just post one word, and on my caption, people be like, well, what do you mean by that? Or you get a message, well, what does that mean? What is power play? I'm like, I made it up. But it got them to start the conversation. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with all that type of stuff, and we want to help people. And how do we reach those people? We have to speak their language, is where I'm kind of at.
I love that, man. And you've definitely nailed that, I think, for sure.
Can I throw one thing too, though? And this
Please.
is really important. Like, I can't tell you, I can remember several instances where each one of you guys have helped me along the way, right? Either you were trying to, or just a conversation that we were having. There was something that you would say that was like, right? So I would encourage everybody out there, like, make sure that you've got some colleagues who are with you, right? Make sure that you're not always surrounded by students. Make sure that you surround yourself with colleagues who can actually give it back to you straight. Otherwise, man, you'll start to believe your own hype. Right?
Hey,
right? And you will think that, your wings aren't made of wax, and it's just a whole, right? So I want to thank you guys, because I mean it. Like, it is, I've had those uncomfortable conversations with all of you, and they're not always uncomfortable like, Jacques, you're wrong, but more like, dude, that didn't quite make sense, or have you ever thought about this? Right. So I appreciate that. And we all need that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about this crew right here, is I think that everyone here has that kind of white belt mentality, that regardless of your success, whether or not your business is where you want it to be or you want to go further, you still look lateral. I look at Curtis's stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see why you're doing the hectic thing. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that. Jacques, I can see how you've changed your language and your delivery. It completely makes me reframe when I'm talking about PAP or anything. I'm like, okay, well, I can see that. Michael, you've just been crushing it forever. So every time I see your stuff, I'm like, that's clean and sexy. I got to clean my stuff back up. I'm like, oh, how do you get that? Just one circle, but he gets the branding in there. It's so good. So it's the same. I mean, Jacques, I appreciate you saying that. I just think that you guys are all like that. I absolutely love it. I admire this group. So thank you guys all.
Yeah, same. I love it. I love it. If I was going to add something earlier, though, I finished this book called Real Artists Don't Starve. And within that great book, you guys probably read a lot. I can't sit down and read. Got the kids. I can listen to books. But and Honor's like two kids in one. But anywho, In there it talked about George Lucas and how he had his essential or his ranch for writers and that type of stuff. And it was kind of like what Jacques, what you were saying of like having people to nudge you, right? When you have that, like people nudging you forward in a like a meaningful way, like, hey, bro, that was great, but have you thought about this? Or I see Michael's posts. Like the first thing that hit me with Michael when he was posting was how clean, like what Brandon said, how clean your posts are, dude. Like just, it was like, wow. I was like, oh, dude. Right. And it drew me in. So if there's certain things like, man, Michael's doing a great job of marketing those things. So I think that book, that chapter stuck out to me because even though we're not at a ranch, you know, we're at a social media ranch, and I'm getting this like nudging from you guys in a beautiful way. And what's cool is that each of y'all's pieces, we all have our strengths. And I feel like each of us, if I'm lacking an area, it's like encourages me to like, okay, I can nudge forward and do that. So that's a long thank you, but it's just really cool to see those types of things, you know?
Michael takes like a great photo, puts a little bit of like a shadow on it and like a yellow circle and a few white letters. And you're like, son of a gun.
Boom.
Like I overdid all my stuff. Come on.
But that takes me 12 hours to do, but you just have to make it look like it took 3 minutes. I'm like going, oh no, it's wrong.
The circle needs to be this much bigger.
I've got hey Curtis, I really like something that you said there, and I wanted to kind of circle back to it in terms of there's like this struggle, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this. I know some people watching will have experienced this, that you get to this certain point and maybe you're like 2 years in or 5 years in or 10 years in or 25 years in, and you want to differentiate. And you are trying to speak to an audience, and that audience have got their vocabulary, their understanding, but you want to differentiate from what your version of exercise is, your recipe is that you deliver. At that point, do you go, I'm no longer a trainer, I'm now let's make up a title here? Or do you cycle back and actually go, no, I'm going to claim this. I am a trainer, but this is what training is. This is what personal training is.
I think that's a great
Curtis,
question.
How have you navigated that? Because I see your stuff and I'm like, well, you have an abundance of expertise and an abundance of knowledge, and you're able to deliver this in such a generous way, which is phenomenal. But to do that, you need to be able to connect with those people.
Correct. Yeah, I think for me, I own it. All right. I tell people like, well, what do you call yourself? I feel like I need to put a cape on and say, I am this, you know, like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like
the body whisperer.
Yeah. You know, like, no, I'm just a trainer, you know, or I'll say exercise professional. Right. And they're like, well, you work with athletes. We'll have a certification that kind of like allows me to work with them. I was like, but really my job is to make your body function well. Right. And there's a plethora of tools we can use to do that. Right. But what I've noticed, and I think what's happened around here, like business-wise, I've tried to remove like Curtis Clay Training and just have the logo because there's other guys here. And I've read that because Nike did it back in the day with blah, blah, blah. I want the people here to know that what we do, not me, it's not about me, because we're here to serve the community. What all of us can do here to help the community. And the first thing is we have to make a connection. So they might be like, say some of the athletes might be like, dude, that's a sick hype video. That's great. But then they come in and they might have an idea of how I am. And then we start talking and they're like, whoa, this is different. This is different. Dude, he's a trainer, but like, I don't know how I don't know. He's a trainer and it's different. You know, like I have no problem owning that. But the hard part is I can't tell. Like I've gotten to know you guys and I really love in person. Like I love that we can do video, but there's these moments in person you can have with people to connect. I believe we're meant to connect with one another. So when somebody actually walks through our doors here and we can connect with them, that's where the real stuff happens. That's where, like what Jacques said, there's or actually I don't know what Jacques said, but like there's these emotional things that happen where it's like, I'm struggling with this. And you might look at that girl and be like, wow, you look great. You're fine. And like, no, I'm not feeling good, but I can't convey that over a non-human interaction. And so for me, when people come in the door and then they have an idea of how I am, they're almost like shattered with how I operate. right? Like they expect most athlete trainers or whatever to yell, boisterous, and they're like, dude, you like when you're firm, you might raise it at like, hey, but that's it, because we're having a conversation. So I think for me, it's about building that communication and connection, and when that happens, then they start to know, wow, this is what these guys are really about. And then from there, they tend to go tell everybody, and they vet people like, hey, if you're not serious or you don't want to be involved in the process, I don't know if I go there. And maybe they're like, maybe that conversation makes that person think, oh my gosh, do I want to be intentional? I'm intentional. And then they have this, and then they come in and that kind of stuff. So I guess for me, it's just trying to make the information clear for people to understand, but there's no way I can make that clear until I talk to them in person, So, and I don't know what that quote is. I'm going to butcher this, but it's like, people don't know how much you care until you it's not, people don't remember what you do for them, but it's like how you made them feel. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
They're like, wow, this guy listens to me. I like coming in there, like whatever it is. So hopefully that answered it, Michael, but yeah.
I think that's awesome. Jacques, what about you, man? How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, I feel like that central thing has been the cause for some of the biggest mistakes that I've made in my life, right? Not wanting to be identified by the certification that I had, right? But I think as of my latest incarnation, and it was almost like I had to stand in front of a mirror and say, I am a personal trainer. I am a personal trainer, right? Just to claim it back and to wear it and to own it. I find myself being fine with being a personal trainer. Someone says, oh, you're a personal trainer. Yes, I'm a personal trainer. If the slate is clean, I'll say I'm an exercise professional. And then I usually follow that up with, and I bet you want to know what that is. And then I kind of lay out, well, some people might think of it as a personal trainer or a Pilates instructor or blah, blah, blah. I use a spectrum of exercises, that kind of a thing. But I think I'm more okay with being a personal trainer. It's a funny thing, and I hope this doesn't sound whack, but my wife hates it. She hates when I call myself a personal trainer. Absolutely hates it.
You're so much more.
Well, that's what she says, but I'm like, but babe, I'm not. Like at the end of the day, if we could, level this and recreate the definition of it, I would gladly say I am a personal trainer, right? Who doesn't, do the creepy, weird stuff that a lot of personal trainers do.
Creepy, weird stuff.
We all know what that means.
Oh yeah.
What you doing over there?
Honestly, I love this. I think this. This was one of my questions in case no one else didn't bring it up, because I think it's such an interesting paradigm shift. Because I know from the same certifications that I had that I identified with so many different titles between the names of the certification and self-given titles: biomechanics specialist, biomechanics consultant, internal performance coach, neuromuscular rehabilitation specialist. I mean, I came up with every $15 syllable name that would try to get someone excited to hire me. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, I mean, anything that you put out there that requires your consumer to become educated as to what the title is, or they can even figure out what you do, they're going to look the other way, because they're not looking. You have to think of the words that people are saying, in my opinion, because whatever they are going to say and they're going to Google search is how they're going to initially find you. Unless you get a hot referral of someone saying, you got to see this guy, Jacques. He's expensive, but he's absolutely the best. So I think ownership of the word personal trainer is the best. I had this problem where so many people viewed me as a pseudo therapist and an alternative to physical therapy and in the holistic world, because I could help people with advanced problems with exercise. And so it was when I stopped competing in the really crappy fixer therapy world and focused on being the absolute best personal trainer in my community that I was able to have higher rates and have this facility grow, because everyone in here, we are the best personal trainers in town. And we have unique, amazing skill sets. And so I think that that's such an amazing paradigm shift, because we really, in my opinion, should absolutely own that we're personal trainers. And we're not just personal trainers. We are, in my opinion, at all different layers, the best personal trainers. And if you and that's what I think is the absolute best thing. I don't fix anything. I'm not a therapist. I range of motion and posture. Sure, that's cool. I use that stuff, and here's how it helps me use exercise to make you feel better. And here's a program that's going to make you throw the ball further. I absolutely love it. We are trainers, and we're the best, in my opinion.
Now, see, I'm with you, man. And I think if we can't get through this today, we got to do this again, because I think this is a really important, I mean this is a really important thing for each one of us to go on for 15, 20 minutes, however long it takes, because we've all gone through this struggle of personal trainer to, oh, here's this shiny thing over here that's going to make me more than personal trainer. And because we wanted to differentiate ourselves so badly, we were willing to sacrifice some of our wisdom.
Keep it coming.
Right. So we all need to sit down and kind of go, but what were the things in all of our lives? Because there were different points for all of us. We didn't always all make the same shift at the same time. There were different things that encouraged us to go, now, wait a minute. Who are you? What do you want to do? And how do you want to represent yourself out here? Right. Because I think that's a really critical thing that you said, Brandon, because we didn't all feel this way 8 years ago. 8 years ago, we were someplace else, right? And we got to figure out how do we, because there will be another one of those, and we want to make sure that people can be confident. And I actually have one of my really good friends. You guys remember Trevor St. John? Do you remember him? You guys remember this cat? He was an RTSer from way back in the day. And he's also an actor. And I remember when I first started that other program, he was just sort of like, I don't know, man. I'm a trainer, man. Like, I don't like touching people. I don't get that. And I don't know, man. Push on my leg again. See, you didn't push as hard as you did before. I was like, yeah, I did. He called it from day one. But I wanted so desperately to be something more than, right, those people over there that you see what I mean? So I think all of us, we need to tell that story. That's
love it.
Got to tell that story.
Yeah, I think that's critical. Michael, what about you, man? You asked the question, but I would like to hear your soft hobbit wisdom, because you always have such a beautiful delivery.
I have nothing more to add. I really don't. I'm listening to Curtis, and I'm like this nodding dog over here, just agreeing with everything. And the same for Jacques. I'm just like, yeah. I have nothing different. Meaning there's a point, and that around that 2001 mark, I'd been in the industry for 5 years, and I'd had a studio from 98, 98, 99, and I got to this point, and I was doing these other courses based upon the needs of clients. So I was going into this manual therapy thing around that period. And then I did this course, and this course gave me a title. I was a performance enhancement specialist. And I was like, that's me. And that's it. I'm a performance enhancement specialist. I'm now no longer a personal trainer. And there was this kind of like sense of like, I'm here, but the reality was I was doing the same thing. It was just a title. And if I'm out and if someone was to say, what do you do? I'm a trainer, or I can be there, or what do you call yourself? Well, I call myself Michael. And I know I'm being a little bit of a master.
Oh yeah,
that's my identity. But for years, I would never have said that I was a personal trainer, because of this global societal perception of what that word actually means. But I'm really, I think it must have been, I don't know, where are we? 2021, maybe 2011, where I was like, no, we got to claim this back. In fact, it was earlier than that, but we got to claim this back. I deliver exercise. Yeah. I might be able to design exercises and prescribe exercises. I might look at other parts of someone's life within my scope of practice, but that's ultimately, I apply forces to anatomy. So if I apply forces to anatomy, what is that? How can I, what word can I use? Well, it's personal trainer. So I'm like, I'm back here.
I totally welcome all of these different certifications that are coming out with fancy, gigantic titles, teaching fancy applications of exercise, giving people specific criteria to follow to do X, Y, and Z. I welcome it because honestly, as more of those things pop up, more people are going, that thing didn't work for me. I should just go back to exercise. Who's a good trainer? I know a guy. I know a few other people around the world. Because as more of those things pop up, people are like that. Listen, I don't know what that is. There's all this holistic hoo-ha. I just want to get back to exercise. And I think that that's what everyone here is kind of saying, which I absolutely love. The funny thing about just calling yourself a personal trainer too, you stay away from awkward family conversations. Like when you're having like Christmas and your aunt's like, so what do you do? You're like, well, I'm a muscle integration specialist. They go, great. I got this ingrown toenail. Do you think that the muscle, like you stay away from all that stuff? I'm a personal trainer. Oh, I tried that. Didn't work for me. Great. Cool. Let's go have some turkey. Like it's awesome. I love it. Hey, Jacques, man, you have such a deep mind. Do you have something interesting you want to ask all these crazy people?
Yeah, I do. I want to know if there's a piece of equipment that you've gotten rid of that you wish you could have back.
Ooh.
What do you think,
That's
Michael? A piece of equipment that you've gotten rid of in the past. You're like, oh man, I wish.
That there was an old. I have a plate-loaded leg extension right there, and I replaced a VR1 leg extension that the color of the pads was the equivalent of what of here in the UK, hospital beds are like this weird green, like someone's vomited on them, and it was that color green. It was rusty. It cost me the equivalent of around $300, but actually it was amazing, relatively compared to this. It was amazing, and I found this hip machine that was this old classic thing. And again, I replaced it with something better. I've got a Bravo where that was, and I'm happy for that. But I'd like to push the walls out here. If I could just like do this and just kind of expand this space, I'd be really happy to bring those back. But nothing that's really like, the things that I've got rid of are things that I might have lost in moves between studios, like little pieces of equipment and these weird little Nike glasses that are not useful. They're just fun to mess around with.
Right.
Love it.
Cool.
Awesome. Curtis, what about you, man? You got a million things you're smashing into that crazy space over there.
I had a 4-bar linkage leg press by Nautilus. It was massive.
Explode?
Right? Yeah.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
It was just massive, man. Loved it. I really wanted the Cybex squat press, right? So like I like the Explode one because they could kind of like sit into it and be a little bit upright. And so it was just a massive footprint. Yeah, dude. Yes. So, but some guy, like I posted a video of me using it, and the guy offered me, he's like, dude, I can't find anywhere, like, I'll offer you pretty much double what I got for it. So I was like,
sold.
Yeah, sold. But I like that. I mean, there's something different. That experience of when you get to that end of the position and there's a drop off, getting people to, we simulate that, like with the offloading of bands on our leg press, that kind of stuff. I would love one of those. It was so big, but I miss it. I love legs, training legs more than anything. So I have a bias of legs. So
it's awesome.
I miss that piece, man. But that was probably pretty much it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I want, but not that I've had yet.
What about you, Brandon? What you got?
I honestly have smashed so much equipment into this place that I've only sold a couple pieces. Like we had a Nautilus 2ST chest press that I sold to get the Strive chest press. And I wish I could have had both because the 2ST, just the profile, even naturally without any modification, felt really good. I got rid of it because one of the plastic bearings blew on like the left side, but it had like you could do unilateral and all that stuff, was super sick. I think the thing that like I haven't sold anything that I really want back, but I missed a deal on 3 Med-X pieces, which in Canada are insanely rare. Like I know if you go to the US, like one of our students, he's getting pieces for like $500, and I'm like, this is insane. But this guy had I'll hook you up. But he had the Med-X lower back, rotary torso, and ab, and it was for $3K. And I was like, listen, I'm half Jewish, so I like to like kind of like push things a little bit here and there. And I'm like, listen, I got $2,500. And he goes, no, it's not going to work. And I was like, well, I got $2,500. I'll come pick it up tomorrow. He said, nah. And that was like 3.5 years ago. And now I don't even see them on the market anymore. And I really wish I just snagged them, because I know that even if I was holding on to them with how the market's changed, if I wanted to sell a piece, I could have blown them up. But Canada just sucks for that stuff. So it's a big bummer. We just got an Atlantis MN200, the 2-to-1 ratio cable weight stack machine that I'm super stoked about. So now we got 3 functional trainers for the gym floor. It just like changes the dynamics in here. So I absolutely, I'm a big gear nerd. Jacques, what about you, man? I know you moved like halfway across the world and you changed everything. Is there anything that you're missing that you're like, man, I wish I could hold on to that?
Yeah, man, my shaker weight.
You've not got rid of that.
That's why your arms are so big. That's why.
That makes sense.
Seriously, I don't know what happened to it, but it disappeared somewhere in the move. I can't find my shaker weight. I guess the Nautilus Freedom Trainer thing.
Yeah.
I wish I had, kept my hands on that. But no, other than that, I it's just for me, it's just trying to decide what I want to pack in here,
I mean, Jacques, is it 2 cable trainers? Do you have the Jacques? The Jacques trainer.
Ooh, that thing's, bro. You seen that?
That would be sick.
That
it's
is
a beast.
the title.
Been announced yet.
New title right there.
The Jacques trainer. Yo, but do you have is it the Kaiser, and then do you have also a cable machine in the other behind you to your right shoulder?
No, I do not. I have the functional trainer, and then right there I have it's a squat rack, but I do have a pulley system set up on it right now. So what I'll do, this is the funniest thing. I will set up things where I either do a 2-to-1 or 1-to-2 pulley system on there, or sometimes a 3-to-1 pulley system on there, right? It's so cool watching people like the experience of you have something where you're making sure that the tension is the same by either doubling the load or cutting it in half. But the way it feels as you move a 1-to-2 scenario versus a 3-to-1 scenario is amazingly different. And it really emphasizes, I'll call it, different aspects of control, right? And it's really fun, like just building that for somebody and then watching them do their thing and be like, this is kind of fun, You're limited because of the height of, like if you're doing a 1-to-2, you're limited because it's moving twice as far, so I don't have it suspended from the ceiling. But still, like there's enough range to do a full bicep curl, or from a certain position if you're little enough, shoulder flexion kind of deal.
It's fun messing with people with pulleys. You put like a 4-to-1 30 pounds and then a 2-to-1 30 pounds. You're like, these are the same weight. What do you think? And they're like, well, this feels totally different. I love that look.
Or when you say, okay, here's 10 pounds, here's a 1-to-1, 10 pounds. Now we're going to make a 2-to-1. I'm going to put 20 pounds on there. It still doesn't feel the same. It's really cool. And then so you could do, then you do a 3-to-1 with 30 pounds. You go, wait a minute. I'm seeing that the measurement is still 10 pounds, but it still doesn't feel the same as I'm moving this, because our brains are saying move from here to here, right? And we think we're moving our hand at the same rate, but the weight's not moving at the same speed.
Right.
So the experience is entirely different. It's really cool. Both metabolically and from a neuromuscular standpoint. But now we're getting all nerdy. Stop.
Speaking of nerdy things, Jacques, that I've spent money on and I have not really got an ROI back on because it's blown my mind, is when I first met you, and I told you this in our one-on-one, I asked you, which book should I buy to prepare for the lecture that you were going to teach in my class? So I purchased this Presynaptic Inhibition and Neural Control, and I purchased it, and it was a few dollars more than I liked to spend, and it showed up. And this is the most intense book that I have ever received in my entire life. So thank you very much. I'm still learning forever. White belt.
Well, dude, that's awesome. And here's the thing, but I hope you're using this as some nighttime reading for your kids. Like
Ooh.
that's what it's for.
Oh, yes. In the overwhelming majority of cell types examined to date, including DRG neurons. Yeah, no,
See?
it goes pretty good. I like it very much.
See? Yeah, right next to Elmo, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Curtis, listen, one of the things I love about you is kind of like what you said with your advertising, is that you kind of got like this athletic, big, barbaric look. But you have such a deep mind, and you really examine things in a way, and your communication skills on top of that, all of it is just this beautiful thing. It's awesome. It's the whole, what is that, Columbo kind of thing, where you have a visual of like this big burly, and then you have such a young but wise mind, which I think is I really admire. I'd love to know, what do you want to ask this crazy crew? What do you want to know from Michael and Jacques?
Let me pull it up.
Oh, he's got a question, bro.
Yeah, hold on.
If a train is leaving London,
Yeah. So no, yeah. Well, I have two. So I'm actually really curious about this one. How much does your imagination and creativity play into your training?
I like that. Who do you want to ask first?
Michael. Let's ask Michael.
Everything. This is my background. Before this, I was studying graphic design,
Okay.
and in school, I was going on this art kind of trajectory, and in the background, they missed all the other stuff that I kind of fool around with. But we are creative humans. We're problem solvers, and for us to figure out a solution to a problem, we have to go through the same process as if we were coming up with a product, a new product, or coming up with a new logo, or coming up with a typeface. You know, if you think about a typeface and you think about the letter A, like how many different ways can you create the letter A?
Right.
Can you do 50 different ways? Because those 50 different ways, you might not use them right now, but now they're part of your repertoire, and a new client comes and they need a different approach, or they need a different style. Here you go. I've now this doesn't work. Now with this one, how could we kind of drill down from there? And it's the ideation, I think, is the correct word, maybe, where it's just coming up with the solution. So that's a word that's dear to me in terms of creativity.
Love it.
Jack, what about you?
Sax master.
Yeah, well, it's funny. One of the things that I did as a young man was I played tenor saxophone a lot, and mostly jazz and I guess you could call it funk. And there's a lot of improvising there, right? A lot of improvising, and I love it. It's fun. It's always been a part of my life. And so, yes, creativity is a part of. If anything, it defines my struggle with my note-taking system, right?
Yeah.
I do take good notes, but man, as soon as I come up with, oh, this is how I'm going to write stuff down, this is how I'm going to organize it. You know, that person comes in where I have to just shatter it and go, oh, I have to draw pictures for this person. The notes won't do, right? So yeah, it is everything, and I absolutely love it. And I only have it is the primary criterion for my selection of my clients. So if somebody wants to come in and work with me, I meet with them for an hour, totally free, where we go through their health history and stuff. And I might do a couple of little assessment-y kind of things with them. But really, it's me trying to make sure that it's going to work, right? That what they need is something I can provide, and that the person walking in is going to be receptive to the way I work, right? I'm sure you guys have met the client where they come in and they have an idea of what they want to do, and they basically want you to stand there and watch them do it, right? And count for them. And so I want to figure that out right away. And if that's that person, I'm just like, you know what? YMCA is right down the street. They got some great counters down there, right? Or whatever.
Great counters.
So creativity is everything. It's everything, man. Yeah.
I love it.
How about
man.
for you?
Yeah, Brandon, what about you, bro?
100%. Creativity is, in my opinion, like one of the most it's one of the most important things for me, and I think everyone should explore it. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, you guys probably see me because I post it once in a while. I play drums, and I've played drums for a really long time. And when I was younger, I entered into every drum solo contest I possibly could. Like, honestly, and that was kind of my driver, because it was a combination of like physicality, where you need to like really you need to push your body to make adaptations so your right foot can play bass drums at 16th notes at 200 BPM or whatever it is. But at the same time, it's how do you create this like mechanical percussive physics-based instrument and have it tell a story in a way that someone who's a drummer or not a drummer absolutely will like. And one of the things that I learned that is, I think, translates to a lot of the way how I think about business is just there's things like polyrhythms and polymeters. So a polyrhythm is where there's two rhythms happening concurrently over one another, and sometimes they don't match up. Like if you get 3/2, it's weird spacing. And then a polymeter is when you have different rhythms that take a certain number of sequences for them to match back up. So if I'm playing 4/5, it's going to take 5 cycles of the 4 to match up to the 4 cycles of 5 to get to the 20-note cycle. And it doesn't matter if that lines up in time or not. You have to figure out where that's going to fit in and what time signature you're playing. So you have like multiple rhythms happening concurrently. And I love that idea, because I think about that with like all things within business, that if I've got a 5/4 pattern, which is Fitness Pro Mentor's business, and that model, it skips on this cycle, and it's got this that happens, and this needs to happen on beat 1, and then the E of 2, this happens here. I've got that all laid out, and I know that that's going to happen in this line of music. And then strata, I need these pillars in place. And if I don't have my operations manager and my marketing person in the right spot at the right time, we're going to miss this sale or miss this conversation. So the combination, it's weird because creativity is huge. It's not just like, it's like, how do you make colors mesh? How do you take patterns together? How do you make it all work together? But in my opinion, I saw a great quote. I'm going to butcher it like you were saying, Curtis, but it was something along the lines of like true knowledge is just creativity and being able to reorganize the information in lots of different ways. And I'd say that, like, personally, I used to paint when I was a kid, the drum stuff, and then that simple equation that Tom taught at RTS that was just the resistance plus motion plus time plus effort, and how that's, I don't know where that even is anymore, but the original equation, it's changed so much. The original equation, that idea of like, oh, this is just an equation, and it's like, it's a sliding scale of like force and velocity and base of support, and yeah, right, you know what I mean. Yeah. So it's like, to me, at the end of the day, I think creativity is one of the most important things. And if I ever have a student who's like spent so much time studying, they've gone to RTS Mastery, they've got their BA, their masters in here and all this stuff, I would explore them to challenge themselves to be more creative. Like, take up an art form and practice acoustic guitar and get good at it for 1 year. And that won't translate immediately. But when you start understanding the skills it takes and the knowledge it takes to become creative and tell a story with something that's not your mouth, it translates. So I think, Curtis, I absolutely love that question. And even the picture from today that I posted, this little thing here, your little hat says the art and science of coaching. So, I mean, Curtis, what about you? Where do you think creativity fits into this whole continuum?
I think it's, if I was to talk to like a new personal trainer, I think that they try to live more on the, I guess, the heavy on the science side, which we all have that knowledge, but then you realize, like we were talking about marketing, like how we communicate to people and so forth. The creativity side of it is so massive because nobody's built the same. I guess we can say that from a simple standpoint. People will understand it. Nobody's built the same. So if I do a lunge with one person and another person, they're not going to feel it the same. And that's just from a mechanic standpoint. But then we talk about, hey, how have you used your body? Right. So it's like this constant creativity of like, hey, where do you feel that? Okay, cool. It's almost like, and I know that I have the analogy of Curtis Clay training with like clay and molding it and so forth, but I kind of view training that way because, like, we might get a lump of clay that's from, I don't know, Southern America, different clay, you know, and then you get another one from somewhere else where there's more rocks in it. And then you're going to treat both those differently, and being able to understand those properties and using your hands to artistically create something to what they're looking for. And so I feel like the creativity side is crucial. I mean, I don't know if I would be out of this field if I was training people the way that I learned in my major. I'd be done. You know, like, I've had a few Division I offers recently to come, like, work at a college and so forth, kind of around the country. And one, the fit's not right. Timing's everything for me. But here, what I can do is I can truly customize things, and I don't really want somebody to restrict my creativity. That's why I started my business also, because I wanted to meet people where they are at. And I think Michael said it earlier, problem solving, right? People are looking for problem solvers. And I think there's a lot more people that are looking for problem solvers than most people think. And so being creative is a part of who I am. Like, I don't play drums. I attempted guitar when I was younger. I draw a lot. I do a lot of drawing, whether it's charcoal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, I use my Surface, but I like to draw, and that's helped me learn and study and that kind of stuff and calm me down. And so I love the creative aspect of that. And now, you know, I have like a to-do list of things to build, like planter boxes for my wife, or a microgreens beautiful stair ladder. So like I got to build that way too. So the creative side of that, I really enjoy that stuff. And I think if I look at the gym here, what I've been able to create here and how my mind, like the gym it's almost like an extension of how my mind works and how I want things to operate. And I enjoy that part of it. Right. So
Hectic.
Yeah, it can be a little hectic, but the other side's good. I mean, it's controlled chaos, but there's like, it's weird. It's like there's organization, you know, it's locked in. There's a lot of machines in here. I'll tell you that right now. But I think it plays a massive perspective. And I think that when you learn to create, which means you have to take something that's up here and turn it, you have an idea up here and turn it into something. What are the tools I need? Can I create a tool to solve that problem? There's this thing that happens where it almost like opens up. Like, whoa, I can do way more things with that thing. Oh, I can do way more things with that thing, right? Or communicating, like do a sit-up, do this, do that. And you're like, no, do it like this. It was the same motion, like what Jacques was saying with his cable machine. Same weight, different experience. So how do we give people that different experience? So I feel like being creative plays a massive, massive role. And I was curious to hear what you guys said. That's why I came to that question, because I feel like I'm constantly thinking, creating. And I can definitely relate to Jacques' note-taking stuff, because I want to make things real pretty on my computer, and then I get somebody in where I'm like, well, can't do those screens first. Well, let's cross it out and make it up, you know? And it's like, and I like that though, the free form of that, but I know what I'm doing. And I think that's what's kind of cool about the creative process of helping somebody, because they've gone to non-creative processes and it may not have worked. And they're like, you know, on the questionnaire, it says, are you open to new exercise experiences? Right. And I asked that. I've added it in a couple more times throughout my questionnaire, and worded differently to see how if they interpret how I'm asking that. Right. If I ask somebody point blank, are you open to new experience or exercise experiences? They'll say yes. But if I word it in a different way, they're like, or whatever. So I kind of feel where they're at. So I like the creative process. I think it's massive in what we're doing and what we're all doing. So yeah, it's cool.
Michael, I saw some inspiration. You saw your hand going. What were you thinking?
I was actually just thinking of when Curtis, you've got your Surface and you're going to draw. It's a blank canvas. And Jacques, when you're holding your saxophone, there's no sound coming out. And then Brandon, when you're at your drum set, there's nothing. There's no sound. And what we're doing is stepping into the unknown. You've got no idea what this thing's going to sound like or look like once you go there. And in essence, that is the creative process, is stepping into the unknown. We're not repeating something else. We're not copying something else. And similarly, if I had a piece of paper and I'm just walking around the studio, the gym here, and I'm just going, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. That's not creative. It's also not personal training. Right. And it's that stepping into the unknown. It's that blank canvas. It's that new song that we're creating, or to something that we said off the camera. We've got all of these ingredients, like Tom Purvis's exercise equation, and we're making a recipe. We're chefs. We're not cooks. That's that in essence is at the heart of it is creation.
There's my drum teacher. There's a guy that I studied with for a long time named JP Bouvet, and he's just insane New York jazz guy, and it's just absolutely, he's incredible. and he's a drum solo wizard, which is the reason why I hired him. And an analogy he gave me, Jacques, I know you'll resonate with this well because he's the jazz improvising. If I said, hey, Michael, create art for me by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's just super broad and generic. And you're like, well, what is art? You could do anything. Quite literally, the canvas is way too wide. But if you create very strict limitations and you have to operate within those limitations, all of a sudden the creativity within those limitations become almost exponential because now you have a framework to operate within.
Mm-hmm.
Take this saxophone and make a beautiful jazz solo now. Take this Microsoft Surface and this pencil, and I want you to draw a picture of a person that you've never drawn before. Take these drumsticks and play something in 6/4 that you know, it's really that limitation. And that's what I love about our personal training clients is that, you know, it sounds like exercise someone. Okay, that's super simple. Okay,
Right.
Exercise someone, do a lower extremity dominant session, focus on their knee extensors when they're preparing for a knee replacement in 6 months. Go. All of a sudden, like if someone said that to me, I could write up a program and have a conversation so much easier with all that crazy tough stuff than someone just saying, make a program tomorrow. And I think that's just the most beautiful thing about what we do is you learn all of this incredible landscaping around the physics and the anatomy. And although it seems incredibly dense, when you get the limitations of Curtis Clay, torn supraspinatus, wants bigger chest, go.
Yep.
It becomes so much more simple because that limitation gives you some freedom with being creative. I don't know. I think that's absolutely awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that
he's speaking like he's talking like Yoda. I was just saying he's talking like Yoda now, man. That's awesome.
Smart you are.
So I have like to kind of round out today. I've got one last question just to kind of get a few laughs for anyone who's still listening right now and listening to this podcast in the future. And really quickly, I had a few people say happy birthday, which is very nice. And then someone said, Michael, very profound stuff, comma, Hobbit. So what I want to ask everybody here, I've got a story I'll share at the very end here. Michael, what is one of the funniest moments you've ever had with a client that stands out in your mind? Here, I'll share my story while you guys are thinking about it. I got one. So think about it for a second. What is one of the funniest things? So I had this gentleman, 71-year-old Dave Applegate.
In fact, go for it.
You got one?
Yeah. I mean, a really easy one. Okay. We are on this guy. So we're on the leg press, and it's just a little bit dumb, right? But he looked like he was struggling on that leg press, and this is not necessarily a client. This is a student. So he had a group of people around him, which obviously is going to be really intense. And he's showing, he's someone who we want to see what it looks like to go to the limit. And this, I'm not going to name names, but if he ever sees this, he knows exactly who he is. But we reached his limit, and that was funny for everyone that was watching. This guy was he's the type of character who he did find it funny, but he got to that point where it wasn't muscular failure that stopped him. He just, because everyone they were kind of like cajoling him on and kind of going, come on. And then he was kind of reaching the end, but everyone decided to go really quiet. And that was the wrong thing, because all we heard was the sound coming out of.
Oh, poo-poo.
That was it. No, not quite that far.
So a shart.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. So I'd say that's probably the first thing that came to mind there. In terms of clients, I think these guys might have something funnier than that.
Student sharts are a win for sure. Jacques, what do you got?
Oh, I don't know. I got distracted by listening to the story. I need another moment.
Chris, I feel like you got a good one.
I got one, yeah, for sure. So no sharts are involved in this. But new kid was coming in. He wanted help with, like, he was kind of plateauing, he said, at the high school with their training and stuff, which is totally like, lift heavy, do this, blah, blah, blah. So trying to get him to understand how to move properly, change his intention. So get him to feel his muscles working versus moving the load, like just pick it up. So anyways, we're doing a trap bar deadlift. had it elevated a little bit. So like, hey, before you go, I want you to think about just squeezing your glutes, right? So like from here, using this stuff back here, whatever you think you're using, I want you to tell me where you feel it. So I'm like, whoa, that was really good form, man. How'd that feel? He goes, it felt good. I go, where'd you feel it? And he goes, my butthole. And I go, and this is the funny part. There was like 5 girls in the gym. He just like said it like in my butthole. And I go, wait, where? And he's like, and he said it again. And I was like, can you just show me? So he grabbed his glutes. I go, how big is your butthole, dude? And he's like, I meant my glutes. And all the girls were kind of like, okay. So, he got past that, right? And yeah, so that was kind of funny because I was trying to stay because like I could tell the environment, like it was towards the end of the hour, and we were almost ending. The girls were coming in, hanging out. These softball girls were getting ready to go, and they heard him say it, and I was just kind of like, oh, good. So you met your glutes, right? He's like, yeah. But inside, I'm like dying laughing. So. Yeah, that's probably the funniest one I had, if I can think. It sticks in my mind because you could tell the environment kind of set it up to be kind of funny.
That's good. That's good.
Jacques, you got one, man?
Yeah, I got one. I'm not going to put any names in this. I doubt they hear it, but anyway. So the first time I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had helped to train. I think there were 4 or 5 other clients that came with us, and on the last night before you summit, you go to bed at around 10 p.m. You wake up about 2 a.m. and you go for your summit push. And you're at your high camp, and it's really cold outside because you're basically sleeping on a glacier. It's cold. You're in your tent. And so that last night, nobody gets out of the tent to pee. You just kind of roll over. You get your little Nalgene. You do your thing in your Nalgene bottle, tighten it up, and it's done. And that is your pee bottle. You don't use it for anything else, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. So get done, do the whole thing, get to the top, and then we get all the way back down to high camp, right? And everybody decides we're going to take a nap, and then we're going to head all the way back down, right? So we all take a nap, get our stuff all packed up, and you're a little bleary-eyed, whatever. So we get all packed up, going down, and we're all like, just kind of merrily going down the mountain, swapping tales about how we suffered and how great it was. And so this individual, says I'm thirsty, grabs the water bottle, and get like, I watched the Adam's apple do the whole I've swallowed thing. I'm just like, dude. And he kind of does look like. I was like, yeah, you just chugged your pee because it's cold by that time, so you wouldn't know it. So yeah, that was a pretty nasty moment. Yeah, drinking your pee water on a mountain.
Oh,
never forget.
Yeah. Never forget that one.
That reminds me of the 15th time I jumped out of an airplane, Kilimanjaro guy over here. I like that you just threw that out. The second time I was on Kilimanjaro. It was like,
no, that was the first time.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So mine, I love it. There was a gentleman I worked with named Dave Applegate, and he passed away, unfortunately, but I worked with him for several years. And when I first met him, he walked in. He's one of those guys who came into the office with like a walker and 2 knee replacements and a hip replacement. And 71 years old, crazy like Einstein, wild hair, very soft-spoken, missing a few teeth, but like one of the nicest, most genuine, amazing people I could possibly ever. So I spent 6 months working with him, and his entire goal was he wanted to get off of the toilet unassisted and not have to bother his wife, which I thought was like such an extremely profound goal. So we spent time working in an isolated scenario, getting his feet, his knees, and his hips strong. We got him on the gym floor doing some stuff, and I had to like pick him up. He was huge, like 230 pounds, 6'3", like big guy. I had to put him into every machine, get him out. And so one day, like we were working on some squat progressions, and he was doing them so fast and strong, it looked like he could do it. So I said, hey, Dave, do you want to try this thing? I'm going to put this chair down here, like long guy. Do you want to try and sit down and stand back up and just see how that goes? Like try a squat. He goes, yeah. So he stands up, he sits down on the chair, sits down. Falling down was easy because we could do the eccentric. I usually had to lift him up. And he went to go try, and he went, and like popcorn farted hard. And I was videoing the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, Dave, I was going to use this for some marketing. Could you do a second one? But at the same time, it was awesome because he did such an amazing job squatting. But it was just this silent moment we waited 6 months for, just surrounded by Like just anyway, it was a moment for me that I'll just never forget. It was a win and an interesting, funny moment.
I love it.
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
Can I throw one thing out there before we wrap up, man?
Yeah, man.
So I don't know about you guys, but a part of the satisfaction of the job is watching the many different ways that people's lives shift, right? Whether it's an athlete or a grandma who just wants to be able to play with her kids, or someone who needs to feel better about themselves to get the promotion, whatever. And that's awesome. And for a range of reasons, people will say you need to go and exercise. But the reality is that all of our clients, I'll say most of our clients are privileged, right? They got the money to pay out what we ask them to pay. And the thing that began to disturb me after a while is I was like, wait a minute, but there's a lot of other people who need this work, who are no less deserving. They just wouldn't even walk in the door because they know that it costs something. It costs more than what they could pay. So what I've done is and I want you guys to think about what you can do, but I've tried to figure out a way that I could rally some resources for people who can't afford to work with me, right? So they don't come free. They can pay $5, they can pay $10, they got to pay something, but the rest of it, we'll take care of it, right? Mm-hmm. But the idea is that trying to make sure that this promise of exercise, this wonderful thing that we know is so important for mental health and for physical health, for the health of our communities, right? Making sure that it's accessible to more than just people who can like afford to go down to the playground and run around, where maybe that's not what they need, right? Or maybe we show them what they can do down to the playground. But I just want to throw that out there to you guys, because I know you're all very talented, and I know that our communities need what we offer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I actually started doing something with that during COVID. That kind of hit me pretty hard, right? Because I know that I wasn't able to work. You know, I have an emergency fund and that type of stuff, and I was trying to figure out how can I serve people. So I obviously did an online thing where they could participate and so forth, and that some people they pay for that. If they wanted a tailored program, that's fine. But I decided to keep that going, because what I've noticed is that I would agree people wouldn't walk in the door, but what I've noticed is that people are starting to walk through the door and just curious, right? They couldn't afford it. That was me growing up. Anytime there was a free team resource or whatever, I wasn't going to miss it. It was free. I didn't have the resources to do that from a single parent home. So I have an online thing that I've been doing, whether it's an educational platform to get people to think differently. Because a lot of these kids, or even adults that come in, maybe the kids, they'll use the high school resources. Maybe they're tweaked, or maybe something's off. And so I'll talk through videos of how to exercise and think about doing a lunge, doing a squat, doing this. If you feel like you're doing it wrong, back off. So I've started something and I partnered. It's kind of like in the little launch with Microsoft and using Microsoft Teams. And I think that there are more things we can do. But again, I just think it comes down to, like we talked about earlier, is being creative. How can we do that? How can we do that to reach those people? Because one thing that's encouraged me about all of you guys is your guys' hearts. And what I mean by that is that y'all truly want to help. And that's why I got into going to the classes that I went to. I wanted to truly help people. And that's why I enjoyed going, with seeing each of y'all's stories and how you operate and do things. You really want to help. And I think that with our level of continuing knowledge and also creativity, there's things that we can do to make an impact. I mean, it'd be cool if we did something together, like a resource or something. I think it'd be super cool. And I think that getting those minds together can make a big difference. And Jacques, I love that, man. Like, I love that.
Word.
Extremely generous idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. And honestly, getting this group of 4 together, I was hoping this would be the first and do a bunch of different groups. But if you guys are down, I'd like to get the 4 of us together again and do this whole thing again, because I think this was absolutely blast and a great perspective and a great time. So let's talk about that idea. I think that's absolutely brilliant, Jacques. I want to quickly personally say that this has been one of the most fun hours in the last several years that I've done, because I'm serious, because I do a lot of these interviews and I've interviewed you individually, which is great, but having so many different personalities at one time that have some, it's the same, like we all have the same ingredients, but not. It's different dosings and it's different perspectives. And sure, we use similar backgrounds, similar physics dosings. We know a lot about the similar anatomy. Jacques, you're on another level, but whatever, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, we've all creatively come up with our own delivery system and how we help people. And we're all helping people ultimately achieving the same result with our interpretation of the information. And each one of you, that's why I called this little thing Fitness Pro Mentors. It's not supposed to be hubristic. It really is supposed to be that I believe every one of you is a mentor, consciously or not. And you can look beside you to your peers and people who are students, quote unquote, behind you, and people who are in front of you. And we can learn from all of these people. So, Michael, your crazy circle and your dark drawings with the white letters blows my mind. Jacques, your exploration of tech blows my mind. Curtis, you just blow my mind in general because you're so studly. Thank you for making this such an incredible day and incredible podcast episode, guys. This is a lot of fun.
That's great, guys.
My pleasure.
Great.
Anytime.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely.
So good to see you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's plan to do this sometime again next year. What do you guys say?
I'm down.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fitness Pro Mentors podcast. All these guys are absolutely awesome. If you're not following them, you're missing out, especially Michael, but also Jacques, because he's pretty cool, makes you buy books that are expensive. And Curtis, Hectic Marketing, absolutely awesome. Thanks so much for checking this out, guys.